On the 1st of December, I got the news I was dreading. All of the tests have confirmed the diagnosis. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So basically this will be my last holiday season. I am awk with what is going to come. I am at peace with that. I have had a life well lived. All of my loved ones will be taken care of. I am naturally a private person, so my wayward wife, Jane, is unaware of my tests. I did not want to worry her until I had answers. So I headed home early to have the talk. This is not something I wanted to do over the phone or by text. Well, as you can guess, since I am here, my life changed more than once that afternoon. When I arrived at the house, I noticed the car of one of my business partners in the drive. There was no mistaking it. Flashy, expensive with a personalized license tag. To say this is out of the ordinary is an understatement. I pull up our home camera system on my phone and notice it is in privacy mode, not recording. So I let it be and drove off to my farm property. Now our camera system is for safety and I never look at it unless there is a concern. With that said, I also love to watch for wildlife on the outside cameras. I also find it oddly satisfying to watch storms come through. So for my own enjoyment, years ago I configured a second video recorder to archive the cameras to local storage. That storage is not accessible via my phone. So when I was at the farm, I opened up my computer and looked at the other server to confirm what my gut was telling me. And sure enough, there they were, snuggling in the living room, drinking wine, dancing, then going up to the bedroom suite. Apparently they left the doors open because the microphone recorded their activities after they left the camera view. With my limited time left, I wanted answers, but I didn't want the drama of a confrontation and divorce. Call me what you will. But all of my devotion and love for her left me that afternoon. I have all of the emotions that are to be expected. I know that I am not to blame. I have been a loyal, romantic, and attuned partner. I am now thinking about myself. I know what is important to me. So I called my lawyer and we reviewed my will and our prenup. I told him what was going on. We worked on an understanding of how long and to what extent this affair has been going on. What has been found is disturbing and I either clearly did not know the woman I shared 2+ decades of life with or something in her changed. At this time, I am not going to say anything to my kids, wayward wife, and I never had children or wayward wife. I am going to put on a stiff upper lip and get through the holidays. Give the kids and grandkids one last holiday memory with me involved. I will be the doting father and grandfather and then try to play the doting husband role. Some background for some of the obvious questions. AP is a widower and is not remarried. He is a business partner but not a friend. I do not invest with friends. I never married my twins' mother, male and female. It was her choice and I completely agree with her that at that time she made the correct decision. My kids' mother, Sarah, married a very wonderful man, Steve, when the kids were 7. Sarah and Steve never had kids of their own. I got my head out of my ass when the kids were 3. I have been very involved with them before that, but that is when I started my road to be the father I wanted to be. Sarah and I co-parented well together and I would call Steve a friend. Sarah, Steve and I are in our 60s. Jane is almost 60. AP is in his 50s. Jane and I are both in our first marriage. We were in our 30s when we married. Update. First, I want to thank you all for all your support. It really has helped. I have read all of your comments and has given me a lot to think about. I'm going to give some general information to help clarify my situation. Sarah and I were very young when we had twins. They were a surprise but always wanted. So the twins are in their 40s and the grandkids are all teens and older. Christmas is a week-long affair every year. We spend Christmas through New Year on the farm. We go cut down a tree after everyone arrives. We decorate, cook, play and celebrate as a family. Sarah and Steve have been a part of this tradition since I bought the farm. I remain steadfast in not telling anyone until after the new year. If I told Sarah, she would not be able to keep it in. I don't want to place Steve in a position to lie to his wife. I want the kids and grandkids to enjoy the week. We will have plenty of time to cry and prepare in a few weeks. Jane's presence this week will just be a small detail in the long run. Really, I don't care about her anywhere near the rest of the family. The finances are very interesting. Jane and I met and were married after we both were very established in our job and wealth. She had a good job with a great pension. She also had 2 inheritances that were in a trust. We agreed early on that we were both comfortable and we would not disclose to each other our entire worth by her insistence. We also have a prenup where any property in trust that predate the marriage and any income from those resources are not considered marital property, again on her insistence. Now I have provided both properties, housing with utilities. I purchased the travel, food, and fuel. Basically, I support her 100%. Her income and wealth are spent by her only. She purchased her car, clothes, personal travel, and cosmetic surgery. She is a very beautiful woman on the outside but has shown she is very ugly inside. A few days after I got my diagnosis, I announced my retirement from the nonprofit. Now knowing what I know, I noticed Jane was a bit uncomfortable. I can guess why. I will be around more often. So tomorrow is my last day of work. Now I will be focusing on spending time with the family. I gave the camera server info to my lawyer and gave him access from his office. So I don't know if they had activities again, but I would assume yes. Again, I don't care at this point. I know who I am and what is my worth, and AP is a big step down. As flashy as AP is, I am low-key. I drive a 15-year-old pickup truck. I like jeans and t-shirts and coveralls in the winter. I know for a fact that AP does not have anywhere near the wealth that Jane thinks he does. How? Since the trust has invested in his business, I get quarterly financials. I don't tell anyone how much I have, that is between my accountants and me. But let's just say that the trust has been growing for 30 years. I live a modest life and there is enough there for my great-great-grandchildren to enjoy the farm and have their education paid for. Once Jane knows what she lost, that will be her reckoning. I just won't see it. December really got busy. We did our normal social rounds these last weekends. AP was at one of the parties. It was hard to not keep an eye on Jane and him. I don't think I was caught. With being so busy and wrapping up everything at the job, I have had an easier time keeping it together. Jane has not expressed anything that would lead me to conclude that she knows I know. I am not proud of this, but I still sleep in the same bed. I have been selfish with her as of late. I feel like I am using her, but she has apparently been using me for at least the better part of this year. I am not as honorable as many of you have made me out to be. I hate this small amount of deceit. So don't worry about Jane getting everything because she will not. The trust is in great hands. I have detailed instructions on how it is to be managed. Thanks to the comments, I have made plans in case my health turns for the worse sooner than I want or if I pass unexpectedly. I have also made plans to have in-home care when it is needed. Jane will not be my caregiver. If I become incapacitated, the lawyer will tell Sarah, Steve, and the kids. Jane will be blocked from me. All important papers, valuables, and whatnot have been moved to a safe location. Finally, I have also started letters to each family member and Jane. Those have been harder than I thought. So I wanted to update you all before all of the festivities start. I might check in during holiday week, but if I don't, it is planned and expected. Hey OP! I hope you have a fantastic holiday season with your family. Enjoy your time and make the most of every moment, both for yourself and for their lasting memory of you. If I were you, I'd pre-record a video that I would ask to get played during the funeral. In it, start by thanking everyone for attending, with the exception of Jane. I would then say something along the lines of, I left this world unloved by my own wife, and I ask that if she is in attendance that she does not attend my celebration of life following this video. I wish you all the best OP. Now let's get into today's second story. Hi there. I'm 40 years old. My wife is 35, and we've been married for about a decade. She and I started off with an amazing relationship. We waited to get married because she miscarried in a previous relationship. Eventually, I told her I wanted to get married, even if she couldn't have a child. We did, and 2 years later, we welcomed our daughter. Things seemed great, but the tension was there at first. Having a kid is exhausting, as you probably know. When our daughter grew up, she claimed that I wasn't giving her as much attention. I explained that she was a new mom and the breadwinner, and I had to make sure that everyone was taken care of. I was trying my best, but I could feel the resentment getting to her for a bit. For a few years, we worked it out. Eventually, our daughter grew up, and it got easier to have a relationship. Still, I felt like there was some strange animosity that came with this, even though I did my best to fix this and made accommodations for her as well. While we did try to make things better, there was still some tension there. Even though we did get past the tension before, something still felt off. When our daughter started school, my wife went back to work. I told her that she didn't need to do that, but she insisted that she wanted to for another reason. I'd been handling the bills, but I decided she was just being nice about it, so I brushed it off. She spent less time at home, which I found to be a bit weird. Our daughter was a little older, and I stepped up to be the one to take care of her. She would get home late sometimes because she told me she had to put a lot more time into the jobs that she missed so much. I found it weird, but I didn't try to. One night, we had a big fight over my daughter's grades. She accused me of not being there since I spent a lot of time at my own job. I called her out, but she called me narcissistic, selfish, and only caring about myself. I was shocked because she didn't seem to actively put effort into the relationship either. I was so confused. She became cold and a lot more distant. She was now more distant than before. I tried to make things better for both of us. I decided, hey, let me go to her workplace to surprise her. When I got there, she was gone. I called her to ask where she is. She told me about a restaurant nearby. I got there, but she was not there. She mentioned she changed her mind, and she went somewhere else. I asked where she and I wanted to meet up, but she said she couldn't say. She was not sure yet. At this point, I thought it was a bit strange. I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt, though. She told me she's going to a work conference. I asked where I could bring my daughter. She hesitated, saying she was not sure yet. Now at this point, I didn't know what to believe, and my gut feeling said something otherwise. I decided to check her work email since it was open, and I found the hotel. I put a tracker on her luggage, only to find out she didn't go to that hotel, but instead to another nearby. Why in the world would she lie about where she was going, and what hotel was she really at? Curious, I decided to follow her. I got to that hotel, and I figure out where she is from the tracking device that I used. When I got up there, I heard sounds of moans, and the like. I suddenly saw that the door is left open slightly, and that's when I found it. She was with another man. Tears of sadness and rage fell down my face, but I couldn't let her know just yet. I decided to wait for them to walk out. They do, and I walked down the hall. I told her that I know everything, that she'd been cheating on me with another man. She tried to lie, but I pulled out my phone, which records their voices. I asked her plainly what really happened. She then goes off to say that I'm not attentive to her needs, and that she wanted a divorce anyways. I got so angry, I told her that she shouldn't come home to see our daughter again. She confessed that this is a coworker, and that she'd been talking for a bit. She said that she'd been going out with him because he paid for her meals. She claimed that she only kissed him, but the sounds were there. I was furious, she had a child with me. She claimed that I was the only one for her. How could she do this to me? Afterward, I left, but not without uploading that footage of her confession to the cloud. I told her boss about it, that she cheated on me, broke a family apart, and put her own needs before her daughter's. They fired her. I kicked her out of the house. Everyone knows that she's a cheater, so I've made sure and have it known in everything possible. Since then, I don't know where she is, but I've been able to help my daughter recover. I stepped up, divorced her, and it's been 2 years. I've kept the details private from my daughter since she doesn't need to know, but since then, I've raised her, and I've done my best to provide the best life that I can, despite what her cheating mom did to me. Wow, OP, that's terrible. You had a kid too. I can't believe that people would throw away a relationship like that. Relationships are about trust, and she broke that, all because of a tough time and being unable to salvage that bond. I hope that the worst continues to happen to her, and that you and your daughter are able to move past this as well. I also think your daughter needs to know about the affair and what happened. She definitely deserves to know. I wish you all the best, OP. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark. I hope you all are having a fantastic day or evening. In today's story, OP found out his wife cheated on him with her boss after he saw some crazy texts of what they did in his car. The OP is planning on getting revenge by exposing the affair to everyone. Now let's get into today's story to find out what happened. We were a couple of 4 years in our early 30s, living together with no children. There were some issues with sex and intimacy. I wanted her to go to therapy because she was struggling with her emotions and speaking about them, but she was too scared. The last time we kissed was in July and she just wasn't there. From that moment, her attitude changed. She became distant and impatient. 2 weeks later, we had a night out with friends after work and she brought her boss along. That was the first time I met the guy and he told me that I seemed friendly, but we were playing on 2 teams because he fancied my GF. When I spoke to my GF about it, she acted surprised and assured me nothing was going on. She became even more distant and hostile. I tried to get through to her, but she would get angry and gaslight me, claiming I was imagining things. I decided to make more effort and take her out more often, but her mind was always somewhere else. Then on our holiday trip, she told me that she didn't feel anything the last time we kissed and that there was no desire for me, but it didn't mean she wanted to break up. We decided to continue the conversation after the trip. When we got back, I noticed she became glued to her phone. She did more activities not involving me. I was still in denial. One Friday, she texted me that she was going for a beer with her boss. When confronted, she only said, "You want me to ask for permission?" It was just a beer. She broke up with me 2 days later. I said that I felt like we could work through our issues with couples therapy and if she went to therapy herself. She started having doubts about the breakup and said she would look for a therapist. When I asked if she met someone, she admitted to texting her boss a lot. He was hitting on her and it boosted her ego. He'd also invited her to join him on his holiday in Croatia in October. She wasn't planning to go. I was angry but believed her. When emotions settled the next day, I felt like that story just didn't add up. So I checked her messenger and it turned out to be a full-blown affair. She detailed everything to her 2 closest friends. It lasted a month. They kissed each other a few times and went on numerous dates. They agreed he would follow her lead and she would set the boundaries. She considered it might be just a temporary crush but wanted to see where it led. Dates and kisses were initiated by her. She said to her friends that it would be a shame if they didn't have sex. She was seriously considering going with him on that trip. They were making out in his car outside her flat and at work. She bragged to her friends that she finally got a romance at work type of story and how exciting it was. My view of her shattered. In the conversations, she acted like a teenager having the first crush in her life. They had a date planned on the day my aunt died and she complained to her friend she had to cancel because of that. I even helped her buy him a gift on our trip which was supposed to be for her friend. It hurt like hell. And man, her friends disgusted me. They cheered her on telling things like, "I envy you and the butterflies in your stomach. Take what you can from this and don't tell your boyfriend." One of them even offered to cover for her so she could go to Croatia with him. They never mentioned that it was wrong and she could lose her job. I also saw live how she wrote to her friends that the breakup with me was probably a big mistake and that we would most likely get together soon, but she needed therapy to figure things out. She also set up a meeting with her boss 4 days after our breakup. I was never cheated on and I thought that physical stuff would hurt the most, but wow, was I wrong. It was the lies and manipulations and how easy it was for her. The cruelty of stuff she did and said. I wanted to believe she was lost. The decision to go to therapy seemed genuine, but so much of the stuff I read seemed calculated. On the evening of D-Day she was in tears and asked if we could talk because she felt like the breakup was a huge mistake. I said we could talk in 2 days. I needed time to gather my thoughts and see my therapist first. I also wanted to get all things out of her apartment before that. Part of me still loved her and hoped she will want to change and fight for us, but deep down I knew there was no going back from some of this shit. It will stay in my head forever. I didn't think she was all evil, but now I discovered a part of her that was disgusting. I wanted to know why, and I hoped that when the whole thing was uncovered she would offer me the truth, since it would be most likely the last time we would ever speak. When we finally met, she said how she wasn't sure about her feelings and what she wanted. That she needed time to figure it out with the therapist. I straight up told her I read all her texts. I asked why she didn't tell me when I gave her so many chances, and she said, not to hurt you and because I was ashamed. It was a rationalization, of course, which made me angry. She was supposed to confess after we would get back together. I of course said it was bullshit because she knew I wouldn't want to fix stuff after that. Questions about details made her at times. She tried to lessen the whole thing. She explained that she felt wanted and finally something was happening, but it wasn't worth it in the end. She claimed she didn't really mean some of the stuff she wrote. She didn't want to have sex with him or go on that trip. She wasn't even sure if she liked him. I asked why would I believe her and not my eyes, and she said that she didn't know why she wrote that stuff and felt ashamed. She also said it was her biggest mistake in life and that she felt like trash for hurting me and regretted not going to therapy sooner and that I deserved someone better. I agreed. She apologized. I asked how she could be so dumb as to risk her job, and she said that it was not my problem anymore. She told me that she set up a meeting with him on Friday to ask him for a break to figure out what she wanted. I saw misery on her face. I said that I felt extremely disappointed and I didn't know who she was anymore. She replied that she didn't know either but was determined to find out during her therapy. When I asked about us, she said it was most likely unfixable. I finished by saying that I didn't know if I would ever forgive her and hope she found the answers that she sought during her therapy. Then I left. It was the hardest conversation in my life. In the end, I didn't receive the answers I wanted, and what I did receive was disappointing and insincere. It hurt me that she wasn't honest even when I confronted her. I'm angry at myself that I hope she would want to fix it, and I still catch myself having these thoughts even after a week. This is naive and I know that. I want to be loved by someone who hurt me so much it's so dumb. I hope these thoughts will go away sooner rather than later. I know I should focus on myself and improve my life, but it's so difficult to move on. I'm angry and jealous that the affair is most likely still going and she enjoys her time with someone else when the corpse of our relationship is still fresh and I'm suffering. Dealing with losing your home and your partner and the feeling of betrayal is overwhelming at times. A ton of you suggested I should report the affair to HR at her company and also blow it up to all her friends and family. I understand the reasoning and I've already spoken to my therapist about it. She told me that I should consider whether such an action would actually help me or just add to my misery. I've decided that I will do that because it will help me heal from what she's put me through. I want to heal and it's the best thing I can do at the moment. I feel better when I don't think about her. I plan on also telling her parents and close mutual friends so she doesn't try to spin the narrative on what happened. Hey OP, she is a product of the environment that she surrounds herself with. She chooses to be around shitty human beings, ergo she becomes a shitty human being. Therapy won't change her until she improves her environment. As long as she continues to surround herself with poor influences, the same things will happen. Her relationship with her boss won't last. He'll get what he wants from her and then move on to a fresh target. I just want to say that with time you will become a lot stronger because of this. You will know the signs early and you'll be far less likely to put up with it as long. Moreover, she's broken. What they say about affairs and it being on the person who had it is completely true. Whether it be a perceived flaw that you have or nothing at all, it doesn't change the fact that she went out and did what she did instead of communicating like an adult. That's on her. She's gonna have to forever live with the fact that she hurt somebody that cared about her, and not only are her reasonings shallow and materialistic, but both of them will be miserable before long. It's a relationship that's built like house of cards. She will never be able to trust him because like who would date somebody that's already in a relationship knowingly, and he will never be able to trust her for precisely the same reason. I wish you the best of luck OP. Now let's get into today's second story. Guys and gals, I'm not doing so well. I'm going to try and keep things as brief as possible because I'm on my phone. I never thought I would ask this, but I need some support. Even if you all are just internet strangers, you are all that I have. Background. My wife, 27 female, and I, 25 male, have been married for over 5 years and have been together for more than 7. We have 2 beautiful little ones together. She is a full-time student. I work full-time. I make enough money for us to pay the bills and eat, but not much more. Our relationship has had its ups and downs. Some points were pretty rough. We separated twice, but we always worked it out and learned from our mistakes and grew together. Situation. My wife and went to town today to run errands. Was not fun. We brought the kids and it was just one thing after the other that kept starting fights for no reason. She started saying some pretty hurtful things, and granted, I'm sure what I was saying probably passed her off too, but I told her I was only trying to communicate about the issue so that we could just address it and be done with it, but she just kept telling me to be silent and not talk to her. When we got home it was around 9 p.m. We got the kids inside and she was in the bedroom getting dressed up. When I confronted her about why she was putting on heels and perfume, she said, I'm going to get dry shampoo. This was obviously a red flag and all, but I wanted to trust her, and she has done this before where she really does go get what she needs and then comes back. As she was leaving I was still just like, let me come with you, your sister can watch the kids for us. She's living with us temporarily. She refused and then drove off. So I do what any doting dad does and I got the kids to sleep. Well, I was also watching the bank account to see if she was being truthful with me. 30 minutes later I saw a charge at the place she was going and I was thinking, okay, everything's good, right? I was just overthinking things. She loves me, right? Yeah, well, several hours passed by and I hadn't so much as heard from her. I was starting to worry, so I texted and called, but I got a notification that I'd been blocked by her. I owned the phones. I was thinking, wait, what happened? Was she okay? Well, as time passed and passed I was staying awake thinking in my head about every single thing that could be happening while I awaited her coming home. The thought crossed my mind that maybe she could be cheating on me, but I refused to believe that and continued to give the benefit of the doubt. Here's where it got real. Around 5 a.m. she came into the house trying to be quiet and putting some groceries away. She thought I was asleep. She put her phone on the counter and I grabbed it and snuck into the bedroom while she was distracted, and on her Snapchat I found a message she had sent to some guy thanking him for a wonderful night. As she came into the bedroom I confronted her with an emotional tone of, I was worried about you and God, so help me, you better start explaining. Well, when she looked up at me I saw her lipstick smeared all over her face. Her eyeshadow was smeared and her makeup in general just looks disheveled. Her hair was frizzy, almost like she ran home or something, and her breath from 4 feet away reeked of alcohol. I was destroyed. 7 years of time, energy, money, and love just washed down the drain as my heart fell to my feet. Thoughts of the other guy and what happened ran through my mind. I got pissed and broke her phone right in front of her as I called her out on the bullshit, and you know what she had to say about it? That I was delusional and needed help. That she didn't cheat on me. I continued to go off on her, hoping to get some kind of emotional response from her that would indicate remorse, but none was shown. I'm at a loss. I can't understand this. Am I being delusional here? Is she right about me? Can all of that stuff be explained rationally? Even if it can, I don't know how to move forward because I can't afford a divorce. I married this woman because I thought she and I were going to build a life together for us and our family. Chase our dreams and all that shit. Who does this to someone? Like, really, no matter how much you fight or argue or things go stale. How do you just throw everything away for one night? How is that worth it? I just need support, guys. Advice is appreciated too. Obviously, if she really did cheat on me, I'm going to have to get divorced. I can put up with a lot of shit, but I can't deal with betrayal. I really don't even believe in divorce because of my religious beliefs, but like I said, betrayal is something I can't do. Are there any Christians in here who are also willing to advise? All support is welcomed. Thank you. Hey OP, I do not understand why religious people state their religion for staying with a cheater. She is gaslighting you. You don't come home at 5 a.m. all disheveled with a thank you for the great evening if nothing happened. This guy is probably a coworker. My heart goes out to you. There is a lot of pain coming your way, whatever you chose to do. See a lawyer as soon as possible to see where you stand and take his advice. Search for and read up on the 180 and gray rock methods. Implement them immediately. Act as indifferent towards your wife as you can. She will notice. You will notice that she starts acting more attentive. She starts seeming bothered by your lack of attention. by your lack of doing things for her around the house. This will further confirm to you that she is likely cheating. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. Don't let her have that. Good luck, OP. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed the stories, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment below with your thoughts on today's stories. Take care. I was married to my ex-wife for 3 years before she broke our marital vows and shattered whatever was left of my heart. My ex-wife and I met at a bar on a Friday night, and coincidentally we sat next to each other and ordered the same drink from the bartender. While I had gone to the bar to unwind from the day's stress, it seemed like my ex-wife was there to cry over her broken heart. She kept drinking and taking more shots until she threw up. As the good Samaritan I was, I helped her back to the more comfortable bar seats, stayed with her for a while, and that was how we became friends. I didn't think that helping her that night would be the beginning of our love story, and somehow her sweet personality caused me to open my once broken heart to love again. My ex-wife was a caregiver, and I worked with a tech company. On our free days, we would hang out together, either go to a restaurant or the bar we met or go for a walk in the park, and in less than 6 months of knowing her, I asked her out. It was almost like she charmed me with her personality, and I fell deeply in love, and because we were both young, financially stable, and in love, we married after a year of dating. We were so happy, and every day I thanked God for giving me a woman like her, mainly because I had lost hope in love and had already decided not to get married. I had experienced multiple heartbreaks with my exes in the past. With my ex-wife in my life, I was a changed person. I cut off friends because our goals did not align, especially the ones that insisted I cheat on my ex-wife because she would do it anyway. I also stopped staying out late because I wanted to spend more time with my ex-wife. I just wanted our marriage to be perfect, and because I had not been in a relationship that lasted that long, my ex-wife and I agreed that we would not have kids until we were ready. We got along well for the first 2 years of our marriage. If we had fights, I ensured we settled it before bed and didn't sweep anything under the carpet. I didn't want a situation where our arguments would lead her to find comfort in another man's arms, so I did what I had to do. In terms of provision, I provided for my ex-wife as a man should provide for his family. I got her whatever she wanted to make her happy and did my own share of chores at home. We visited our families whenever we were supposed to, and I always remembered our anniversaries. Around the 3rd year of our marriage, I noticed that my wife started acting differently. She wasn't cold toward me, but I could tell that something was off with her. Initially, I believed she acted that way because of stress from work. She recently told me about a new client she was assigned, and she was struggling with him. Since it was around the same time, I didn't pay much attention to the slight changes, and I encouraged her to rest more whenever she returned from work instead of watching reality shows the whole night. But when weeks passed and she didn't change, I became worried. I talked to her about taking a leave so she could rest properly, but she shook it off like it was nothing. Then she started acting weird and asking weird questions. She would ask questions about couples that opened their marriage and how they felt to be with someone else aside from their spouses, and if I answered the first question, she would jokingly ask me what I would do if I found out she was cheating on me. I blatantly told her I would leave and divorce her because I would not tolerate living with a cheater, and she would laugh it off and pretend she was asking a harmless question. She didn't ask this question once or twice. I lost count of the times she asked, and each time she asked, I wondered why she was asking the same question again, and she would tell me she wanted to be sure that I really loved and valued her. Initially, I believed her, but it became suspicious when she kept bugging me with the same question almost every 2 weeks, but after so much consideration, I let it slide. I didn't want to ruin my beautiful marriage and relationship with her based on my past experiences with my exes, so I convinced myself that she was only reviewing our marriage and doing her love affirmation thing. Around the same month her questions started, the organization she worked for hired another caregiver around the same age as my ex-wife, and they quickly became friends. This new friend was exactly her opposite. She loved to hang out on weekends and have fun, and in no time, my ex-wife joined her. They started hanging out together more often, and after a long week at work, they would pick a place they wanted to hang out at. I didn't have any problem with my ex-wife and her new friend. I was glad she put aside her introverted nature and opened up to someone else that wasn't me, and I knew how choking it could be for your spouse to be your only friend. As she started hanging out with her new friend more often, it also gave me the time to rekindle my friendship with some of my old friends and see them regularly. At the same time, nothing really changed in our marriage. We were still the same, and our love for each other remained the same. One weekend, I invited 2 friends to come over and watch football at my house since I knew my ex-wife would be out that evening with her new friend. She was always my football partner, and since her outing was important to her, I didn't want her to cancel, so I invited my friends over. Unfortunately, about 15 minutes before the game started, I noticed we were out of my favorite chips, and I went to my ex-wife's purse to steal some cash. I knew she always left cash in that particular purse in case we needed to buy something urgently, and it wasn't my first time taking money from there. Instead of getting the cash I wanted, I found a strange business card with a red lipstick stain on it, and I was sure the lipstick was hers because it had that vanilla fragrance on the card. Also, I had heard my ex-wife talk about the name on the card a couple of times on the phone with her friend. Seeing that card didn't sit well with me, so I told my friends about it, and they opted we go and check out the place. We drove to the address on the card, which turned out to be a nightclub. I was stunned because she never mentioned going to a nightclub to me. She talked about fancy restaurants, bars, and picnics, but never a nightclub. Outside the nightclub, I recognized her friend's car, and I knew they were in there together. To cut the story short, we went inside and saw her in the VIP section with a stranger. They were cuddling and laughing at the top of their voices. From the way she wrapped herself around him, anyone could tell they weren't strangers to each other. I was so shocked and heartbroken, and I couldn't even move from my position. Thankfully, one of my friends took out his phone, took photos, and recorded my ex-wife and her lover together. I couldn't go home that night because I was so angry, so I crashed at one of my friends' place. That same night, we did a quick research on the club, and we found out her lover was the owner of the nightclub. Not just that, he was also the son of the client she was always complaining about, and it made sense to me. As for her lover, I left his nightclub a 1-star review and posted the photos and video online. The following day, I went home to my wife, and she was acting all nice and innocent. I didn't want to beat around the bush, so I told her I knew she was cheating, and she immediately denied it. I watched her cry and call me names for accusing her, and when I was done with her drama, I showed her the photos and videos, and she couldn't say anything. Politely, I asked her to go in and pack her things, and she started begging and crying real tears. She blamed her new friend for misleading her and promised to be a better wife, but I was not having that. Her relationship with the club owner started when she asked those questions. I was so heartbroken and devastated, and I kicked her out when I couldn't listen to her pleas anymore. On the other hand, the photos and videos I posted went viral, and it ruined his club's reputation. It was such a big scandal, and even big vloggers in our city carried it. Unfortunately for him, his club began to run down. Eventually, my ex-wife and I divorced, and shortly after, she left town because the whole video thing did not die down, and people recognized her as the cheating wife from the photos and video. She was even used for memes, until now, I still stumble on her pictures used as memes. It's been years, and my heart has been locked for love. I am not ready to experience such heartbreak again, and I have focused more on doing the things that make me happy and add money to my account. OP, this must have been very heartbreaking. A lot of times, the kind of friends our spouses keep can destroy marriages. Saying that her friend misled her is a very weak reason to cheat on you. She would not be easily misled or influenced to do the wrong thing if she loved you like you loved her. She was only using you, and asking those questions was only her way of testing the waters. Keep focusing on the things that make you happy and richer. With time, all the hurt will go, and you will forget about her. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Now, let's move on to the next story of the day. Hello, everyone. For the sake of anonymity, I'll be using fake names. Laura and I met after I graduated from college. She was almost rounding up with college then, and though we didn't start dating immediately, we knew each other for at least 3 years before I asked her to be my girlfriend. Our relationship was beautiful, and we matched perfectly with each other. We dated for 3 years before we got married, and for the first 2 years of our marriage, Laura could not conceive. We tried everything possible, did all the tests, and the results showed we were both okay, but no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't make a baby. Not like I wasn't bothered about it. I was, but the person that was most affected was Laura. She loved children, and even while we were dating, she always talked about how we'd start making children once we got married. So it was heartbreaking for her to find out she could not conceive. To make things worse, we were lucky to get pregnant once, and in less than 2 months, she miscarried. This upset Laura and affected many things about her, including her enthusiasm toward life and the things she loved. It got so bad that she would start crying if she saw baby ads or pictures on Facebook. But luckily for us, towards the 3rd year of our marriage, Laura conceived again and gave birth to our beautiful daughter, Maya. Indeed, Maya was a bundle of joy. She changed so much in our lives, especially Laura's. Laura loved Maya more than life itself, and she did almost everything to make sure Maya was healthy and happy. We treated Maya with so much love, and as she grew up, Laura pampered her with whatever she wanted. She got her the best dresses, shoes, school bags, and everything a girl child should have. There was no asking why Laura loved our daughter so much. Maya's pregnancy came with many complications, and as soon as she was born, Laura and I agreed that one child was enough. That way, we could take good care of her, provide for her, and give her the best education. On the other hand, Maya grew to love us and spent more time with her mother. My work took at least 9 hours a day, and most times, I would work overtime to make more money. So except evenings, holidays, and weekends, I barely had time to spend time with Maya, and most evenings, she would already be in bed before I returned home. Honestly, I loved the mother-daughter bond Laura and Maya shared, and within me, I always wished I had the same relationship with my mom. Maya became our utmost priority. Her needs were first met before ours, education-wise. We sent her to an excellent private school. Before Laura and I married, I knew her to be a go-getter and someone who gave her 100% to whatever she was doing, and somehow, she passed the attribute to Maya. She always encouraged Maya to do well in school, make good friends, and be hardworking. She just wanted our daughter's life to be perfect, or so I believed. Initially, it started like motherly advice to her daughter, but as Maya grew older, it felt like she was imposing the whole good grades thing on her. She always wanted Maya to be on top of her class, read more, and play less, and I even remember telling her to allow Maya to be a child, especially since having the highest grades was not the most important thing at that stage of her life, but her social skills with her friends and so much more. She was being too hard on Maya, and although Maya did not see it as hard on her, I was an adult and saw it very clearly. As Maya continued to grow, she became less interested in reading all the time because it did not allow her to spend time with her friends and neighbors, and Laura took this very personally. It took me a lot of talking before Laura stopped being too serious with our daughter, and I was relieved she was finally allowing Maya to act her age. About a month after Maya's 5th birthday, I was home that weekend, and Laura asked me to help her clean her car. Initially, I was reluctant because I knew how untidy her car was every time I cleaned and how stressful it would be, but I did it anyway. I started by taking out the mats, cleaned the front, and as I was trying to clean the back, I found a pack of condoms in the driver's seat back pocket and 2 pieces were cut out. Immediately, I saw the condom. My heart skipped because we never did it in the car, and the condom wasn't my size. The fact that 2 pieces were missing indicated something was wrong, but I didn't want to confront her without being sure. Seeing the condom in her car definitely changed my attitude toward her for the rest of the weekend, but I lied to her and said I acted that way because of something at work. A couple of days after I found the condom, I secretly set up a dash cam in her car to see who she was having an affair with, if at all she was having an affair. Many thoughts and reasons the condom was in her car crossed my mind, and I thought about all the possible scenarios of someone leaving a condom, her car, but I didn't want to rule out the possibility of her cheating on me. Well, my worst nightmare happened. 2 days after I hid the dash cam in her car, I found out no one left or forgot the condom in her car. My ex-wife was actually sleeping with someone else, and to my greatest surprise, it was my daughter's class teacher. Not only did I get videos from the dash cam I hid in her car, but I also got audio, and what I heard made my heart bleed. I was not only heartbroken, I was very disappointed because my wife was sleeping with our daughter's teacher so he could give her the highest grades in her class. I could not believe she could go to that extreme with her highest grades obsession. Without thinking twice, I contacted the school board and reported everything to them with my evidence. I also confronted Laura that same day and kicked her out of the house in anger. In fact, most of her stuff was already waiting for her in the living room by the time she returned. When I told her I knew she was sleeping with Maya's teacher, she immediately went to her knees and started begging me. She said she did it for Maya and was trying to help her get the highest grades so it would help with her college applications and whatever. I was so angry and I kicked her out of the house. At first, she didn't want to leave because she believed she was doing our daughter a favor, but after I yelled at her and my eyes were popping out, she left in fear because she had never seen me so angry. That same week, the school fired my daughter's class teacher, and I contacted a lawyer to start processing our divorce papers. On the other hand, Maya found out that her mother and I were divorcing, and she was so upset. I knew it was hard for her, and she was already asking questions, so I told her the truth so she could stay with me. Don't judge me, what her mother did was terrible and I didn't try to sugarcoat it. Eventually, we divorced, and I won child custody for Maya. I didn't want her mother putting terrible ideas of desperation in her head, and I believed I did the right thing. I didn't know it would get her like that, but Maya was hurt and stopped talking to Laura. The only time she speaks to Laura is when she is either yelling or screaming at her, and this makes Laura cry all the time, mainly because she loved Maya and did what she did because of her. I still don't know if it's true. It's been almost a year, and I have reduced my working hours to spend time with Maya. Although it still hurts me that Laura betrayed my trust and broke my heart, I'm glad she is not in my life anymore. I may remarry when I feel ready again, but for now, I want to spend time with my daughter and be the best father in the world. OP, this is really sad to hear. Why on earth would a mother sleep with her daughter's teacher for grades? This wasn't a mother's love. It was an obsession. I can only imagine everything that would have gone wrong if your daughter's classmates heard about it. I'm glad you handled this well and won custody of your child. She would definitely be a bad influence on the poor kid. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. I am 34 and my ex-wife was 30 at the time I wrote this story. Miriam and I had been married for 6 years and we had a beautiful daughter together. We were a happy family and I couldn't believe that Miriam would decide to throw away everything we shared as a family. We were always there for each other and supported each other's dreams. If she said she wanted to try something out, I would give her my full support and the same applied to me. Everything began to fall apart when Miriam got the role of an intern at her dream organization, and after she completed the internship, she was lucky to be fully retained. The truth is none of us saw that coming, but I was so happy for her when it did. During my ex-wife's internship, there was this particular coworker of hers she used to talk about all the time. His name was John. She would return for the day and talk about how John was so intelligent, how he helped her out, and so on. I didn't really think there was a problem with that because John was married and he was not helping her alone, he was helping other interns too. Also, being that we were couples who communicated a lot, I literally knew everyone at her place of work even without meeting them face to face, because talking about everything was just our way of bonding and filling each other in about our days. After my wife got retained by her organization, she began to change. If she left for work early in the morning, she would return around 7 p.m. leaving just me to care for and look after our daughter. This continued for a while, and any time I tried to talk about this new behavior of hers, she would flare up and say I was being jealous because she earned more than me and her job was better than mine. Yes, it was true that my wife earned more than me, but that was not what this was about, and I hated that she had to rub that in my face each time we disagreed on something or had a fight. Miriam did not just suddenly begin to return home late, but she also became colder towards me. Before all of this happened, our weekend used to be something we all looked forward to because we would cook together, try our baking disasters, clean together, watch movies together, bath together, and even do karaoke with our daughter together, but all of that stopped after she got the job. It got so bad that even if she was at home, it was almost like she wasn't there. If she wasn't on her laptop, she'd be on her phone, and she didn't have an issue with consistently neglecting us to focus on whatever she was doing no matter how much I complained. It was very painful to watch this because I loved Miriam so much and whatever was going on was not the plan I had for the both of us or for our family either. When I had enough, I confronted her one day and asked her to pick between our marriage and her new job since it was turning her into the person she wasn't, and ultimately she picked her job. She said she'd pick her job over and over and she did not give a damn about our marriage. This was a very painful thing to hear, and she was not kidding either. At that time, I was so busy trying to save our marriage that I didn't notice the changes in the way she dressed, her makeup, and even her choice of clothes. It was a clear sign that she was seeing someone else. It had to be the only reason she neglected me and our daughter, and I was right. One day, I had put our daughter to sleep early and I went to her to think things through, and Miriam was on her laptop in the living room when I left her, so since she didn't hear any movement she must have thought I was sleeping. She walked into the room and I think she came in to confirm if I was asleep because she didn't see me move. When she confirmed that, she continued to talk on the phone. It didn't take long for me to figure out that she was talking to her lover whom she told she was pregnant, and at the end of the conversation, she called his name. It was the same John, her coworker. I felt my throat go dry and I could not believe it. Miriam cheated on me with John, and not just that, she got pregnant by him despite everything we had been through together. I was really broken, but since we were already distant with each other, I didn't need to pretend that everything was okay. While she continued with her ways, I planned my revenge. I really wanted to confront her, but if I did, maybe things would not have turned out the way they did. I got one of those apps that allows you to track people's phones, and I tracked hers. I did this because I needed evidence, and without evidence, my revenge would be incomplete. I got their chats and text messages of them talking about the pregnancy and how she would try to pin it on me. The funny thing is, since Miriam had started seeing John, we stopped getting intimate because she was always tired whenever I tried to touch her. After that call, she tried to make us get intimate, but I didn't let that happen. Gathering the evidence took a while, and after I got enough, I printed them and put them in a big envelope, then I took it to her workplace myself. When she saw me that day, she pretended like we were cool at home and asked what I was doing there. LOL, I played along and told her I had come to deliver something very important to her boss, so she gave me a cold kiss and returned to whatever she was doing. If only she knew what was going to happen next, maybe she would not have kissed me. I think she was still a month pregnant because her baby bump was not obvious yet. That evening, she returned home in tears, but her bags were already packed by the door. I knew she had been fired because her company did not support coworkers dating each other, and to make matters worse, she was pregnant. When she realized it was me and I had known all this while, she fell on the floor and began to cry and beg me, but it was too late. I told her she'd be getting the divorce papers soon and kicked her out. John's wife eventually heard of the news and she divorced John too. John and Miriam did not end up together because he said Miriam ruined his life and all his years of hard work, and he wasn't going to take responsibility for the pregnancy because she was married to me, but we all knew the baby wasn't mine either. We eventually divorced, and with the help of my lawyer, I took custody of our daughter. I was not going to let her suffer for the sins of her mother. Miriam gave birth to a boy, and believe me, she has suffered a lot with the baby. Up to date, every time she comes to pick up our daughter, she cries, begs and admits that she made a terrible mistake. I keep telling her that it would be my own terrible mistake to take her back. OP, I'm sorry Miriam broke your trust and you had to go through all of this. I'll agree with you that you'd be making a terrible mistake if you took Miriam back. It was inhumane of her to abandon her family and cheat on you with a coworker. It's a good thing that she has gotten what she deserved and John played a fast one on her. I believe you will be fine, and you will definitely find a woman who will value and protect what you both have. I'm glad you did a good thing by getting rid of her and exposing her secrets. You're an example of a strong man, and thank you for sharing your story with us. Now let's move on to our next story for today. My ex-girlfriend and I had been dating for 4 years, and I was getting ready to propose to her before I found out she was cheating on me. Anna and I loved each other a lot. We were not the perfect Hollywood couple, but we loved each other. While we were dating, I asked Anna to move in with me because I wanted her to be around me all the time. She moved in a year after we started dating, and she went to college from my place. Being that we had dated for a long time, both of our parents were aware of our relationship and they consented to Anna moving in with me since we were planning to settle down anyways. I was a remote worker who earned well, so money was not an issue for us. My clients paid well, and in turn I provided everything Anna wanted. If she wanted to shop every week, hang out with her friends, do her nails or even get new wigs, they were all provided for. I cared about Anna and I wanted her to be happy. I played my part in being loyal and faithful, and I refrained from doing anything that would cause me to cheat on her or talk to any woman longer than I should. Anna, on the other hand, was a social butterfly. If she met someone on the same day, it would not take long before they became patties. This was the only problem I had with her, and it was always the cause of our fights. In the process of being social with most men, they would cross their boundaries, and Anna did not seem to have a problem with it. If we talked about it, she would tell me, "This is who I am and I am not going to change my personality because you are not comfortable with it," so I let it slide. When Anna finished college, she was not able to get a job immediately after, so in the process of staying at home with me, she added extra pounds, and this made her very uncomfortable. She had to change her wardrobe because her clothes no longer fit, being that she had expanded. I suggested that she try intermittent fasting, but when we weren't getting the results we wanted, I then suggested that she sign up for a gym, and she agreed. The first few weeks after Anna signed up at the gym, she wanted to stop going because of how much her body hurt. She would literally skip some days, and I would persuade her to keep going. She loathed going to the gym, and it was never something she looked forward to, but down the line, I noticed she began to change, and going to the gym was something she prepared for a day before. At first, I thought it was because she successfully passed that beginner stage where working out would not have to hurt anymore, but I was wrong. Ideally, she was supposed to go to the gym 3 times a week since she spent most of her time at home doing nothing, but she changed it to 5 times a week, including weekends. This did not sit well with me, but I could not complain since it was my idea for her to sign up for the gym in the first place. Slowly, Anna began to stay longer than usual, and most times she would come home with so much excitement. As if that was not enough, Anna would pick fights over the smallest things. If I told her she looked better in a particular pair of pants, she'd get pissed. If I told her I didn't want a particular meal for breakfast, she'd make a big deal out of it. When I could not take it anymore, I told her parents about it, and when her parents called to talk to her, she got upset and left the house for about a week. At that point, I was so worried. We never had the kind of fight where she had to leave the house, and I didn't want her parents to know about it either. After repeatedly calling and begging her for the whole week, she returned, and that's when things got worse. I had to apologize for everything she did, even when it was clear that she was the one at fault. I did the cooking, laundry, and took care of the house. I did everything possible to make sure that we didn't fight again, even when she got on my nerves sometimes, because if I did, she would threaten to leave, and I didn't want that. Meanwhile, she did not miss any of her gym workout days, but our relationship was slowly falling apart. Before everything turned out the way it did, we used to get intimate at least 3 times a week, but after she changed, we could go 2 weeks before she let me touch her. One day, she returned from the gym quite late as usual, but in high spirits, and that particular day, I was having a tough time working because my service provider was giving me issues. I asked to borrow her phone so I could use her hotspot, and she just unlocked it and handed it to me. Then she went to her room to shower and change. While I was with her phone, it didn't take long before a message from a certain Andrew popped up. It said, "I know I should not be texting you now, but I want you to know that you're the sweetest and sexiest girl I know, and I love how you drive me crazy. See you soon." Then he added those heart-shaped emojis. It took me a while to wrap my head around what was going on, and when I did, without wasting time, I took screenshots of the texts and forwarded them straight to her family WhatsApp group, and then I called her mother immediately. When this happened, Anna kept trying to talk to me from the bedroom, but when I wasn't responding, she came out to meet, my eyes filled with tears. I asked her if she was seeing someone else, and she flared up and threatened to leave as usual, but this time, I helped her in packing her bags. When she realized she had been busted, she begged and begged, but I still kicked her out. Her parents called her and yelled at her to the extent she could not control her tears. She knew she had disappointed them, and she had to live with that. I could not believe I allowed her to emotionally manipulate me while she was screwing another guy from the gym behind my back. She tried to come back to me several times, but I warned her to never come close to me or my apartment. As manipulative as she was, she even tried to remind me of everything we shared and told me to not let one mistake ruin everything. I had enough, and I got her a restraining order. Later on, I found out that the time she left the house for a week, it was Andrew's house she stayed at and not one of her friends as she claimed. Funny thing is, she did not even know Andrew was married, and his wife and son had traveled for that period. After about 3 months, she started calling my number again with a different number, begging me to take her back. She was sorry, but I blocked her again. Though it was not easy, I'm happy I got rid of that manipulative woman. It's never easy, but I'm happy you did the right thing. Anna did not deserve a second chance, not after cheating on you and taking your love for granted. You wanted what was best for her, but she turned around to pay you back in the worst possible way. No one should be with a cheating and manipulative partner. She was manipulative and she did not deserve you. It's sad you had to experience all of that, especially after you repeatedly showed her nothing but love. Sorry things had to turn out this way for you, but it's a sign that someone better is coming your way and you're going to get the love you deserve. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I wish you all the best going forward. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care and thanks. My wife, 38, and I, 47, were together for roughly about 17 years. About 14 of them were spent with us married. When we first met, I thought she was older than she was. It was just the mature aura she gave off. She thought I was younger, which at the time, did make me feel pretty good. After we decided that the age difference didn't matter, we went all in on the relationship. I was still a little hesitant about the age difference, but then I met her family. Her family was very big, bigger than mine. I'd always wished I had grown up in a close, tight-knit family. I'm the first to admit that her family, who welcomed me with open arms, is a huge factor in my continuing the relationship. She seemed just as crazy about her family as well. I took that as a good sign. A possible wife who thinks family is everything is a plus. The two of us went on to have a family of our own. 2 boys ages 8 and 11. During our marriage, things were good. We got along great, made memories with each other and our kids, and just enjoyed life. Anytime there were issues, we ended up working through them and persevering. I put my entire being in this relationship. Like I had hobbies as any married guy did. Hunting, fishing, and golfing were all things I loved, but after our kids came, I knew the focus had to be on our sons. Our wife didn't get the memo because she didn't hold herself to the same standards. My wife seemed focused on our marriage and family at first, but slowly she started to become a very shallow and self-centered person. She didn't put the kids first or even consider me. I tried my best to accept these behavior changes and keep putting the work into our marriage. It all came crashing down on Memorial Day of all days. I was getting the boys ready for the holiday party when I heard my wife's muffled voice from the bathroom talking to someone. My curiosity got the best of me and I ended up standing there listening. I couldn't hear who was on the other end of the phone, but I heard her. She was telling whoever she was on the phone with that she loved them, couldn't wait to be with them, and every day she spent with her husband, me, took a little part of her soul. So I waited for her to come out of the bathroom. When she realized I had heard what she said on the phone, she was in shock. My wife didn't say anything at first. I asked if she was cheating and she stuttered, trying to come up with some lame excuse. I told her to save it and walked out because I had a party to get to. My boys having a good holiday is what was my main focus. That was D-Day for me, and it's safe to say that the holiday is going to be sullied for me shortly. I'll never let my boys know because I want them to enjoy the holiday and spend time with family. The reason I still attended with my kids was to keep up appearances. It was very hard to keep a smile on my face, but again I did it for the boys. They will always be who I put first in all of this. My wife didn't go with us. She decided to go straight to the AP for comfort, ironically enough. When she finally came home from her AP, I asked her what happened. According to my soon-to-be ex-wife, I lacked passion and didn't show her any attention. I repulsed her as she lovingly pointed out to me. She managed to say all of this while trying to butter me up with compliments about being a trusting husband, great provider, and father. I just was a terrible lover. However, she wanted to stay married and keep living in the marital home while remaining with her AP. I was shocked by that. My wife wanted her cake and to eat it too. She gets the stability of remaining with me and the apparent passion with this jerk she cheated on me with. Speaking of the AP, I knew the guy. He had been over to my house and I'd even hung out with him. The guy knew everything that was going on. I was busy working and coaching sports teams for our sons while she was screwing around with him behind my back. After the shock wore off, I realized I had to file for divorce. It should be done by the end of the year, which is getting closer and closer by the minute. She was against it and tried to convince me we could stay married. If not for us, then because of the boys. They deserve to be raised in a two-parent household. I'm not going to lie, I nearly burst out laughing when she said this. Was I tempted to do it for a moment, but then I realized it wasn't fair to my boys to do that. I didn't want to stay in a terrible relationship just for their sake. This wasn't something I wanted to emulate for them. If they ever, God forbid, found themselves in this position, then I would want them to retain some dignity and do what was best for them and their family. Besides, kids pick up on more things than we realize. I've learned this since my boy started therapy to deal with the situation. I'm also in therapy before you ask, so don't worry. My mental health is also being worked on. When news of the affair reached our friends and family, it didn't go the way she expected. Her own family didn't rally around her. Instead, they rallied around me, which I cannot begin to say was a huge help in the healing process, because I fear I might lose my in-laws in the divorce process. The funny thing is, her boyfriend isn't allowed anywhere at her parents' house or any family functions, while my boys and I are more than welcome. She refuses to attend without the AP, so she and her family have no contact. I talk more to her mother than she does now. They used to talk 2 times a day, but now the contact is non-existent. For the holidays this year, my boys and I were gladly invited. I'm going to go, just not for the sake of my boys, but also because I enjoy being around the family. Recently, it seems that even our acquaintances are beginning to see through my wife's crap. There was a youth night at the high school football game that I attended with my boys. They get to go out on the field at halftime and get introduced to the team. She showed up there, but I already had a warning because she had texted me earlier that day. When she shows up, she marches over to her boys and starts taking pictures with them. I swear the moment she was done with the pictures, she left because her AP was performing at some dive bar. Is he any good? I have no idea, and nor do I want to know either. After my wife left, I had 4 different sets of parents come up to me and mention something about how she stayed just long enough to get her pictures for social media. It was hard not to burst out laughing. Let me tell you, it felt really good that people could see through her crap and that she's only playing up the mom of the year stuff for Instagram, Facebook, or whatever other social media she's on. We'll always have to remain in some contact because of our boys. One is still in the single digits, mind you. I'm just glad other people can see who she is, and when it comes down to it, she is going to put herself first and not me or the boys. In the meantime, I'll keep taking care of my boys and myself. I've started going back to the gym, picked up some of my old hobbies again, and reconnected with old friends. I can safely say I've never been happier. OP, let me tell you that you are on the right track. The most important thing you're doing is taking care of yourself, because if you aren't taking care of them, you can't help your boys. They need a father who is mentally there and healthy, because their mother is too selfish to be an option for them right now. Or at all, since it's her fault this situation is even happening in the first place. The fact that her family was willing to realize that their daughter did wrong is huge. So often the family of the cheater will end up backing them and accepting the AP. It's nice to see that for once this was not the case. You truly did handle this well, even though it might have seemed tempting to not divorce and just keep the status quo. You didn't. Once the fog from the affair wears off, your wife might try to warm her way back in. Keep remaining as strong as you have been for the sake of yourself and your boys. Now let's move on to our next story for today. My wife, 28, and I, 35, got together about 8 years ago. We married 4 years into the relationship, and I thought everything was great between us. Our love life was great, and we were always being romantic. The two of us frequently went on dates and never neglected that part of our lives. Sometimes married people can fall into a slump, but I swear that wasn't us. Sure, we had the rare fight, but they were over within a few hours. We'd make up so fast that it was like we almost hadn't fought in the first place. When I described her to people, I would say she was the love of my life, because I truly believed that she was. She was everything I ever wanted in a partner. Naturally, I thought she felt the same way, because why wouldn't I? My wife never gave me any indication that there was a problem in our relationship. People tend to say that they saw signs or cracks along the way, but I swear I saw nothing. Everything did seem almost perfect. After my wife joined a volleyball club in February, things started to change. I didn't bat an eyelash at first. She had played it in high school and wanted to pick it up again. Twice a week for 3 hours she'd go down to the center to practice. During that time I missed her, but if she wanted to do this then I was more than happy to support her. She always supported me in my hobbies, so there was no reason why I wouldn't do the same. I think the moment I realized something was wrong was when she began to hide her smartphone from me. She never did that before. We never had secrets from each other and had no problem with the other using each other's phones. So when she went to the bathroom in the evening and forgot to take it with her, I checked the phone. What I found was a punch in the gut. In a conversation with a teammate, I found many messages. When I confronted her, she grabbed the phone and deleted the text. My wife cried that it meant nothing. They had gone for several walks over the months and kept spending time together, but it was nothing. He did try to kiss her once, but she rebuffed him. They were just friends, but she realized that she had done wrong by seemingly encouraging the relationship with him. My wife begged me for a chance and to trust that nothing happened. Silly me was still deep in the fog, so I agreed to forgive her that night. Even though I agreed to forgive her, it was difficult. I constantly asked my wife where she was, what she was doing, and who she was with. I even began to track her Google data, where I found a couple of 15-minute stops near a tire store. For some time she had been stopping there after work and then driving home. I started to realize something was up after she was an hour late for an appointment. So I did the only thing I could think of. I followed her one day. What I found was her in his car, and the second she saw me she jumped out of the car. She said that the only reason she met with the guy was to tell him to leave it alone. This made no sense to me. Why would you go through all that effort to meet him in public? You could tell him that over text or phone call. Naturally, I thought she was full of crap, so I called the guy and confronted him. It was there I learned that this guy, who still lived with his parents mind you, had been meeting with my wife for weeks. They claimed it was nothing sexual. All they would do is meet at the tire shop, talk, and then go their separate ways. Once again, she tried to claim that it was a mistake and she loved it. It means nothing is her favorite thing to say. My wife has said she will do whatever it takes to repair our relationship, but if this was the case, then why is she still in volleyball where she continues to see this guy multiple times a week? It was at that point I started to come out of the fog. Once I began to confront her, the truth came out. The two of them did have sex, and not only that, they did it right in the parking lot. For weeks she had been lying to my face and sleeping with this guy almost every day. Truly, I had been naive to think that nothing intimate was going on between them. Of course she would try to lie and say it was not physical. If I knew it was physical from the beginning, I never would have even thought of giving her another chance, because that is just a line you don't cross in my book. I think realizing that she sees him every day and continues to lie to my face is what helped me realize I needed to start the divorce process. This caught her off guard because she didn't think I'd have the guts to push for a divorce and finally leave her. Tears came, but I remained strong. My wife's tears weren't going to have any sway this time. She was going to have to face the consequences for what she had done to not just me, but also used as a whole. No longer could she have the best of both worlds. Once I filed for divorce, she ended up moving out of our shared property and into errant apartments for the most part. Her AP is an unemployed driver who still lives with his parents, who will not allow her to live there, so she had no choice but to seek temporary housing arrangements. She is a teacher, so her income isn't the greatest. I don't know what she will do when she runs out of money to afford these temporary housing arrangements. However, now that we are close to a divorce, I realize that it is not my problem. Maybe she'll manage to land on her feet, or maybe she won't. I just need to realize it's something I do not have to or need to worry about. Let her AP worry about it, since he's so amazing. A lot of her things are still in our shared home. Even now she'll try to say that there is no life without you and she wants to get back together. Months ago this would have swayed me, but now I just gray rock. Her words do little to sway me. I see how frustrated she gets when I don't have a reaction, and honestly, it feels good. I've managed to pick up the pieces and have filled my life with friends, sports, and hobbies, and am even considering furthering my education. Was it easy to pick up the pieces of my life after learning of my wife's affair? No, but I remain steadfast and determined to put myself first. Looking back, I still can't see many signs or pinpoint where it went wrong. I guess she was just good at hiding it. Either way, it doesn't matter because our relationship is done. She can remain with her unemployed AP. Maybe his parents will finally take pity on her and let her stay. If they don't, then I can honestly say it's not my problem if she can't find a place to stay. She lost my sympathy when she decided to go outside our relationship and cheat on me. The moment she did that, she was undeserving of anything from me other than anger and resentment. I first want to say well done to how you stuck to your guns and managed to push forward despite all the pain you were feeling. You deserve a woman who loves you and is committed to a relationship with you. Wasting time on a selfish woman like that is going to do nothing but bring you down. My one piece of advice is to start packing up all her possessions. Tell her she has so long to pick them up or you will dispose of them. It may sound harsh, but all these items of her are going to be nothing more than a reminder of her. Also remember that the best revenge is living your best life. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me.